Have you ever been exploring the rainforest and you come across a symbol that teleports you to an underground civilization that has been awakened by your arrival? You walk around wondering what to do, and then you punch a wall and you get some wood, and then you punch another wall and you get some wall, and then you open your inventory and you notice a torch and you take it
Welcome to the game playlist.
after the torch. My name is Akshan, and my favorite gemstone is an emerald. Seshan?
Right, we're doing this time. My name is Seshan, and I'm gonna go with the sapphire.
My name is Anuk, and I like rubies. So it's red.
Of course. My name is Dilanta, and my favorite one. I already forgot about Akshan. What did Akshan say?
Emeralds.
Emerald.
Damn it! I was gonna say emerald.
We can
I'll go with emerald too because I like the color green.
Hey, see,
Hey.
Well, we're all on the same page. No way. I mean, me too. Today's game. If this is your first time here, on the Game Players podcast, we pick a game. One of us picks a game, and we play it for that month. Today's game is the mining, crafting, survival game picked by Anuk. Anuk.
That is not Minecraft.
That is not Minecraft. Yes, exactly. So should I give a
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Do
Go
your
ahead, say
thing.
the name of the game.
So the game is called Core Keeper for everyone who's interested. So Core Keeper is essentially a combination of mining, building, crafting, and surviving in the said underground cavern systems with different biomes, which will be explained later in the podcast. The game is currently still in its early access stage, but will be released on August 27 with their 1.0 update. So you are getting a review of the game before its final or actual release date, I guess. However, the game has bosses and tough mobs or opponents that you might need to face in order to survive the challenges of this world. So even though it's in early access, I think we can still talk about it, right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, we'll cancel this episode.
I mean,
no.
we spoke about the. I think the only other game we spoke about that was in early access was Lethal Company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
Anuk's second pick, which is also an early access game.
Yep.
Anuk is slowly become the early access man.
Yeah.
He's the early bird. All right, so
1 minute. Also, just to give an example of what kind of game it would be, so I would consider this kind of a game to be a combination of Minecraft, Stardew Valley, and Terraria for those who are familiar with those type of games.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's go keep.
let's go keep.
Go
these
keep.
scores.
Okay, Akshan.
All right, so
Can we talk about the? I think we'll talk about the gameplay. Just not the gameplay, but like give a rough explanation of what the game is about. I
how
guess.
about the game? Well,
Yeah.
first before that, as Anuk said, we're discussing the early access release. There are some things that we might say that may be there might be like a bug or two that we mentioned that are completely sorted by the time the 1.0 releases, and that's next in 2 months.
August
So
27.
Yeah.
August 27.
So if you're playing this,
grain of salt.
if you're playing this after August, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and we'll also keep that in mind when we're talking about it because we'll have that in our heads. But yes, so when you start the game, you just spawn in. You make a few selections of what your character looks like and a few starting abilities, but you're dropped in, and the game doesn't tell you anything. You walk around, you start punching stuff, and I can break wood. Oh, I can break wall, and then you start mining, and you start crafting, and then there's a thing in the middle saying go to kill things, and you do that.
Yeah, and I guess you slowly get to know more about the world as you do.
It's very much in that Minecraft way, except you're underground, and the world is Stardew Valley esque in the sense that it's two dimensions. It's not a 3D world.
Yep.
It's got 3D graphics and stuff at points, but it's mostly 2D world with a pixel art aesthetic, and that's what we're going to talk about first. Before we jump into gameplay, let's talk about the aesthetic and the style of the game. It's pixel art. It's got very heavy animations for all of the enemies for your character. It's very well done in that way. The color schemes are nice. I like the biome design, the creature design, music. I believe some of us like the music enough that we listen to it on the off time.
I got the soundtrack on Apple
Spotify.
and Spotify. Yeah, it's really good. It's really
And
good soundtrack.
Yeah, I think
Surprisingly.
I'm probably gonna add it as well after the episode is done. I'll probably end up adding it.
Quite nice. Very
Soothing,
listenable.
very
Yeah.
soothing
Mm.
soundtrack.
Yes.
I
My
think
only I like I
no. You can continue.
the only thing I the only thing about the soundtrack that I don't like is when you walk into a zone, it just starts that zone.
Yeah, it changes the sound change happens like very instantly, right? Like you suddenly like, oh, this is a nice song, and you keep walking and like really getting into it, and suddenly bam, in the next biome, and the song just changes straight away.
Which it isn't too much of a problem with biomes, but it is with like meadows. Every time you enter a meadow, which is tiny,
Oh yeah,
just like
true.
What I was
Uh.
gonna say is this is probably the first game on this on the game playlist series where like it's done ambient music correctly. We have had this discussion before with other games in that their soundtracks haven't been as
On par.
they haven't been
Yeah.
memorable or
Mm.
they haven't given us a reason to kind of save it. But like this has I think Corekeeper has reached that Minecraft Terraria level of like they've done ambient music good enough that people want to listen to it
Outside of the game.
outside
as
of
well.
the game.
Yeah. And the music, just to credit the person, it's done by Jonathan Gear. Big up Jonathan Gear.
Has he done anything else?
Ooh.
I don't
He
really.
did the soundtrack for Owlboy, another indie game. He also did soundtracks for Cook Serve Delicious, I think. I think the entire series is done Cook Serve Delicious, yeah.
Owlboy's a new game, right? I saw it. Or is it
Owlboy is an older game than Corekeeper. It was
Yeah.
like maybe I want to say
that was
2016.
around the time Hollow Knight came out.
2017. I
Yeah.
saw the album now. It says 2017. Yeah, so that was
2017.
Maybe Corekeeper will be his breakout game.
Breakup.
you never know.
Never know. Yeah.
Not really. Owlboy has his most listens.
I mean, Corekeeper still in early access.
Maybe after 1.0, yeah.
Yeah, with 1.0 releasing, yeah. Definitely. This is also the game is developed by Pugstone, which has only made one other game before, called like Rabbit Chaos something, and that only has 74 reviews on Steam. So Corekeeper is their big breakout hit right now.
Yeah.
It's not even out yet properly.
But
Uh,
I think I wanted to mention something about the art style of this game. It has that same, I don't know how to explain it. When you're filled, like in the current gaming industry, when you're filled with so many like high quality, and this is mostly in terms of like the mass market sort of thing with like a lot of basically the AAA games and everything. You're like filled with like these high ultra detailed games. It's kind of refreshing, but also kind of jarring to play a pixel game. And at least for me, it takes some bit of an adjusting. It took that same bit of adjusting for Terraria, Stardew Valley. I remember playing Minecraft for the first time and just being like, squares.
Squares.
Why does it have to be squares?
Why can't it be round?
Why can't it be
Have you all actually seen the mod for it being round?
Yeah.
All blocks are round.
we'll do that in another game playlist.
Oh, no.
Minecraft but round. But all right. Yeah, it's a very very heavily stylized game. It's not aiming to be realistic in the slightest. It's mostly along the lines of Stardew and Terraria, more than Minecraft. Even though Minecraft's not realistic, I don't know why I said that.
But
I think
I was gonna say, but that being said, I oddly feel like only your character is very pixely.
your character is the most pixely. Yeah,
Yeah.
the most. Pixely.
Yeah.
Like every other aspect of this game seems more like there are
I
more
guess they did on
pixels.
purpose, right? Because to make it more, gives it a bit more. How do you say? A variety, or a little bit more of a mystery to the character, rather than being like flat.
Or
Details.
maybe it draws a line between the fact that like your character comes from another world.
Mm, I think
Okay.
it might be that, and also it helps you identify where your character is. Like you can see that's your character; it's separate from the world. You're not confused and going, "Is that an enemy or is that me?"
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But
It
you
might be
could say
all.
that the other. Is there any other mobs that are similar in style?
No,
That
No,
is-
no, there
even
are.
the merchants are very heavily like animated
Yeah,
merchants.
your character's like the most. It's like 8-bit, and everyone else is like
64 bit.
16.
64. Yeah,
It's 64 bit. Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
an interesting choice. Interesting choice. Music, we just talked about that. Biomes were interesting. I didn't go to the desert one that much, but
Oh, yeah. How are we going to attack this biomes problem?
Is it really a
biomes
problem?
problem.
If
Yeah,
we're talking
problem,
about it from
problem.
an aesthetic perspective, I think everything has sort of a distinct look to it, which I maybe like the starting sections, so like the dirt and the clay sort of like are a bit too similar.
Yes. You could.
Dirt and clay are a bit too similar. Like the stone sections kind of have a different vibe. I think
Gosh darn tin.
the forest area is a lot better.
Within the inner circle area, you have the stone, you have the forgotten ruins, you have the clay biome, you have the dirt biome, which is where you spawn in, and then you have the hive mother areas, which are very small pockets of areas within the clay biome. So you could consider as sub biomes actually, but main three biomes are clay, forgotten ruins, and the dirt biome.
Yeah, but like with the clay and the dirt, like they're a bit too similar in terms of looks that it's like
You can't
you
distinguish
can't
it.
distinguish
No.
really. I think
Only in the menu can you tell apart.
once you get
Yep.
to sort of like I wouldn't say it's not
Attune to it.
end game, like what we call it. Once you get to like the midpoint of the game, then like biomes start making a lot more have a lot more distinction between each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only other way you can distinct each other is by going into your map and telling apart which is which.
Yeah, that's true. You wouldn't tell that as you're walking through it initially that it's different until you look at it that way.
Yeah. So in those biomes, there's different kinds of creatures. So what do we think about the creature design? Not necessarily their what's it, the difficulty of the creatures, but more
The look of them.
like the look of them and the way they attack, like the personality that comes out of it. For example, slimes are just mindless. Let me go stomp on you.
In terms
Whereas
of
the hunters
creatures,
in the Azos, they have bows and arrows, so they come with you with a hammer.
I feel like the dirt biomes are the easiest creatures because you obviously start there.
No,
And then-
not in terms of gameplay, like in terms of looks.
No,
In
even
terms of vibe,
easier to the
easier to
eye.
look at.
Yeah, easier to look at.
Are they though? I feel every creature kind of
Because like the slime, and even the red slimes are easier to look at and distinct. Right, you can definitely tell apart from the surroundings, and
no.
even
Slime, yes.
I feel
I'm
like
thinking of those freaking lava guys.
yeah, the lava one especially, it's difficult to tell which is the lava block or the lava
I
slime
did
itself.
not have that problem. I think for me the only enemy that actually was the problem was in Asios' biome with the guys that actually hide in grass.
I mean, that is part of their mechanics.
That's
right,
part
if
of
you
their
really-
mechanic, yes, which makes it difficult to kind of spot them because like you're looking for red eyes in tall grass, which is difficult in terms of this. But if you're talking about like just the general character design, everything's fairly diverse. I feel like the slimes are a bit generic across games. It's there in Terraria,
Fair enough.
In Stardew.
in
But it works.
Stardew,
So
yeah, but it works.
I have a small gripe with the Azios biome actually,
Oh,
because it was even though it's a like a jungle-ish biome, right? There
Mhm.
isn't much light in it compared to the desert biome.
That makes sense though, because if it's like a rainforest, that means there's less light coming through.
there's a sunlight.
Yes, but okay, it says in the desert biome, yes, you have to have it being open area and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
But in the Azios biome, even though it's a jungle, there isn't much pockets of light. If you get what I mean, it's like dark
Yes.
almost everywhere.
But need I
This-
remind
this-
you, Anup, that this happens underground?
Yeah,
But then that
and
doesn't make
this
sense if
might
that's a
just be-
desert biome as well. If that's also underground.
it might just
Why
be
is that
me,
like-
but like,
That's
isn't
not
this in general pretty like most of the areas pretty dark? I didn't get to the parts that you're talking about, but I'm guessing like most of them are as dark as like the initial areas, right? Or
Okay,
no?
with if the initial areas are dark, true, but
Yeah.
outside of where you would say the end game is a bit
Okay.
more lighter. There's more light in it.
I know what you mean, but I still feel like they did it as a design choice with the whole sticking to like a forest theme thing, because like most forests, they have, I feel like there are certain patches of light, but the majority should stay dark according to like, if you're sticking to the whole rainforesty theme.
True, but I feel like there should be a little bit more rather than being. It's a bit less, is what I say. A little
More
bit
variety, I
a bit
suppose.
a bit more light. Feel
Eh,
it could help a little bit more with your issue of the creatures.
no, I think it's done on purpose. It's done on purpose. Like,
No, that's on
This-
purpose. Like they hide in the grass. You can't tell that they're even in the grass.
And I
They
think-
just stab every
and
piece
I-
of grass they come across.
yeah, and I think the whole area being dark is just to support those creatures and like the entire biome as a whole. I get that vibe, but like I haven't had any issue with like the lighting thing.
Okay.
I feel like there were decent patches of light for me, enough to like
Maybe you said-
explore.
I guess it also depends on how your map is also generated. It's
Maybe.
Well, I've got a solution for you viewers. Just turn up your brightness. All right, let's jump into gameplay.
Get the
Let's jump
improved
into
brightness mod. That's what you need to
True,
do.
true. Easily moddable game, which we can get into a bit later.
Yeah.
But gameplay. The first thing about gameplay I want to talk about is that this game can be is in a sort of cycle. It's the cycle of combat, scavenging, which is mining or foraging, and crafting. Like you go through that cycle every time, like as you're playing. You're mostly doing those three things. Am I wrong in assessing that?
No, you're probably right. That's at least from like when you get into the game, that's probably like the first couple of things that you think to do.
Yeah. Even when you're deciding to go against a boss, in order to prepare, you combat mine or
Yeah.
scavenge.
Yeah.
But yes, so with combat, which we'll get into first before we get into crafting and gear and stuff, I want to talk about the concept of intrinsic versus extrinsic progression. Extrinsic progression, we're going to intrinsic. Intrinsic progression is progression where your character does not get better, but you get better at playing your character, which is how a fighting game works, like a street fight or whatever. The character doesn't get better stats or anything. You just get better at playing it.
Mm.
Extrinsic progression is your stats get better. Your character literally gets better the more you play. Yada yada yada. Neither one is better than the other. It's just two different styles of progression.
Yeah.
This game, from my perspective, leans a lot more on extrinsic progression than intrinsic progression from what I play and what I feel.
I think it's a balance of both.
You think it's an equal
I-
balance of both?
I don't know if
I
it's
feel like-
equal because like I don't think the extrinsic what do you call it? Extrinsic
Extrinsic
progression. Yeah. I don't think that plays as much a part as I feel like maybe you're right. Maybe they are like I think they are a bit balanced in that it has the intrinsic part comes in where you have to kind of learn how the boss works, how the mechanics, or like also how the enemies mechanics work in order to combat them. Like I feel like that is key because even if you have good armor and weapons and stuff like that, you can still easily die. So I think it works both ways. In terms of extrinsic, I think it's more towards the gear rather than it is towards your skills. But that's about
Oh yeah,
my take.
extrinsic progression. It means both gear and like leveling.
Yeah, but I don't think the skills play as much as the gear. So for me, it's like the gear and learning how to fight.
This is very much a gear-based system more than it's a level-based, even though there are skills. But we'll get into that in a bit later. But yes, okay. So
But I
I
don't
feel
know,
like
wanted to say
it-
something.
I feel
Yeah,
like it's leaning a bit more on the intrinsic side a bit rather than the intrinsic side a bit, because you yes you do have to have the understanding of how the bosses work and the mechanics of the game and your muscle memory in terms of each type of weapons you use. But if you have a basic understanding of how, say, if you have a basic understanding of how a sword works, you can use that same concept for every other sword with a different ability in that sword, for example, if that makes
But
sense.
the problem with that is you can't, especially in Core Keeper, right? Like this, for some reason, and like I wanted to get into this later with like the combat and stuff like this. This game kind of forces you to pick and do certain things. As in, like melee is not that big of an option in this game from what I've seen and what I've played so far. In that, like you kind of have to learn to use ranged weapons, which ends up being intrinsic. Like you learn that you have to
Um,
this thing, like learning to figure out how the boss works and how to play it. There are some, I guess there are some bosses like you can melee it with, and it takes a lot more effort.
But it's a lot easier if you have your range
Yeah,
up.
I feel like
Essentially.
it's a fine combination of both. It just depends on. It just depends. I feel like we saw that the most with, at least I saw it the most when I gave all my high gear to Akshan to fight Azios.
Azoth.
Yeah, because even though I had gear that could take on the final, I gave him gear that can take on the final boss of the game, and Akshan still died like 3 times.
Yeah.
Well,
3 times.
that could
But,
mean any number of things.
we try. The reason we did that is I made a new character, so I went and fought that boss at level 1 with his gear just to see what it would look like, what it would be like, and I did that like 3 times.
Yeah, which kind of proves the fact that like you need both. Because Akshan, knowing the knowledge without the gear, would have still died. And this proves that Akshan, with the gear, but without the knowledge, died.
Would have, oh, yeah.
yes, I mean it's not that it's just that it's leaning a little bit. It's not like completely on the intrinsic side. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. I agree. I'm saying it's a balance of both. Like maybe slightly skewed one way or the other, but like so far, I'm saying it being very, very middle.
Balanced.
I feel like they've done it on purpose, which is why they haven't done the. Which is like Akshan brought it up as to like why leveling up skills doesn't feel like it's making you OP, because the game doesn't want to make extrinsic value that important. It wants you to learn how to combat bosses and enemies based on your intrinsic skills.
I would like to disagree on that because without skills and some, for example, skills like, for example, like the owlet, right? Where's okay,
Mhm.
too much
That's not a
information
skill,
here.
that's a
That is a skill, right? That is an
oh
extrinsic skill.
the owlet skills. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yes, yeah. The owlet skills you need those critical chance hits or even speed skills to do a lot more damage per second or DPS as you call it, right?
But
You
that's
need
just
those.
level progression. That's like, so that you
No,
can take on higher
that is combat,
enemies.
right? That is combat.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
can
yeah. What I mean is that you're saying it helps you improve in certain areas so that, but I'm saying that it makes lower creatures easier to fight and makes you on par with the tougher people in the game. Because even though your crit chance increases, even though your damage increases, you can't. It's more difficult to still one shot the tougher enemies of this game.
I mean that is made on purpose, right? Because
Yeah, that's the point.
wait, when you mean tougher, okay, let's just break it down. Do you mean like the last three optional things or
No. I just mean like normal creatures even.
you can.
You can. There's a can and then there's a normal. Like there's a extreme, maxing end game thing, but then there's like a general thing where like you don't fine tune it as much, but it's still like for the average person.
Uh-huh.
Okay, never mind. Just continue your point.
But I feel like you okay, but regardless of that point, I mean, like, you still need those skills to further progress with bosses. Without those things, for example, without a better, like Akshan went through, even without the gear, you can't fight those bosses. You need better gear to fight the bosses.
Yeah,
So if it leans a bit more on the intrinsic
I
side.
think the best way to like sort of establish how it's like the difference is that you you need at least good gear in order to even start fighting Asias, because you can't go in level 1 with a wooden sword and beat him, because you're just not going to beat him. You'll get one shot by his hits.
yeah.
And so the requirement for you needing good gear and good levels makes me feel like it leans not completely. It's still got intrinsic parts to it, because a completely extrinsic game is a turn-based game where you don't
Yeah.
have you just have to pick your attack and you click it and blah blah blah. Blah. But this one you still have to dodge attacks, and stuff like that. So it still has intrinsic progression and like intrinsic gameplay, but in my view, it leans, and what Anuk's saying, leans towards its extrinsic more.
Because you're saying
You need good gear, you need good damage, you need good armor.
yeah, but then
need-
can't you say the same applies for intrinsic? Like you need to know how the boss works to fight it.
No, you just need one. Not really.
I
You
mean,
don't. You just need.
what happened to
It's not
Akshan is
as
proof
that-
of it, isn't it?
That would be true if you could only learn how the boss works and never level up and still beat it. But I can't. Do you think you can? If you understood how the boss works and fight it level 1 with bad gear, any of the bosses.
But then,
really. I don't.
but then
I'm not sure.
didn't the opposite happen to you? Didn't you have the good gear but not know how to fight it and die?
that is extrinsic, right?
No, I didn't know how to fight it, but then like I played it a few times and I got better intrinsically. But it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how good I got if I didn't have your gear at the big to start with.
Yeah. So my argument is that you need both. That it's balanced. You need to get the gear to start to be able to fight him, but you also need to have the knowledge of how to fight him.
I agree. I agree. There is a balance. I'm just arguing that it leans more extrinsic than intrinsic. Not that much, by the way. Not. It's more like I'm thinking 70-30.
Okay. Well, this has been an interesting insight.
All right.
Because the game is core mechanics are the core mechanics are about your items you get, rather than your skill set that you learn for each boss. Unless if you're doing a speed run, then it's a different story. But if you're just trying to play the game as you an average person would, you don't really need to learn these so-called sophisticated mechanics to defeat a boss. If that makes sense.
I agree, but let's move on. I disagree, but let's move on.
You disagree, but let's move on. Yeah, okay. So, I was going to say let's discuss how you fight in the game, but I think we went over that.
Yeah.
Enemy combatants. Was there any enemies that were unfair? And I'm just bringing this up because I hate those plants that come out of the ground and snatch you.
Yes, those the ones near yours.
Screw those plants. I do not like them. They're not
That's
fun
so
to
many
fight
times to
against.
dust.
I don't think there are.
I hate them.
You
But
don't think-
otherwise,
I
I
don't
think
Not at
enemies
all.
you
Not
can
at all.
dodge them or fight them.
I think that's like I'm not going to bring this up for the argument, but like that's where the intrinsic part comes in. Like I feel like after playing it enough that like I know how to defeat each and every enemy in this game without taking a lot of damage.
Damage.
It took some time, but now I can confidently, even though I don't have the best gear, I can fight a lot of these enemies because I learned from the mistakes.
Yeah, those crab guys that shoot bubbles.
Yeah.
After the first time dying to them, I got used to them.
Like I used to die quite a lot in the sunken seas from those tentacle things, and I'd lose my boat and stuff like that. but now I know kind of how to avoid them, and like I get through the sunken sea. I've explored quite a lot of it without dying.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. The enemies are. Enemies aren't unfair, except for those plants. In the game, in my mind,
For
and I don't think we
mobs not really. Bosses can be a little bit annoying. A different story.
bosses.
I don't think even the
Uh,
bosses were difficult.
Jeff, on your first try,
No, that's what I mean, right? Like after you,
Ignis.
no, I mean Igneous, yeah, but
I
like,
think
but
I mean, that's what I mean. Like,
but like again, like you're looking at it like from trying it in the first try, right? Like I'm saying after you actually learn how to fight the guys, you're just like, nah, it's not like. I think that's part of the game. Like it's similar to like how in Hollow Knight, when you fight a boss for the first time, you're just gonna instantly get one shot and die. But the more you keep playing the game, the more
I
you
would-
learn.
I
Okay.
would disagree. Maybe.
okay, why I kind of disagree also is like, for example, like the earlier bosses, the first 3 bosses at least,
Mm,
was kind of easy just to finish it in one go.
okay.
Whereas the last optional bosses took a while to get. Like, coming back to your point, you need to learn the intrinsic part to learn how the core mechanics work for that boss and so and so, and then get the correct armor for that said boss, and then fight them to get whatever said items from them.
Okay, so just for like people might not understand this thing, but like the last 3 bosses I fought, the last 3 main, no, probably the last
Optional
4 bosses, even including optional bosses. So I fought the last 2 titans, the Atlantean Worm, and Igneous. All 4 of them with the same armor and the same set of weapons,
Okay.
which were
But you
not maxed, which were from the that Solarite area.
uh-huh.
I did those mostly
But
based
you
on intrinsic.
but you got your max just not just for argument's sake only, but you already got the max, so to say max at that point where you were
Mhm.
armor wise, right?
I mean, I could have gotten better.
What is better? It's all right.
Yeah, because I was running the cosmic armors.
Galaxite is kind of or technically already the best.
Yeah, but then like even still, right? Like I died. I died quite a few times to. I died once to Amaroth, I think. I died 3 times to Igneous.
Mm-hmm.
Raka was really easy, and Atlantean Worm was also easy.
Okay. But in comparison to the first bosses, the first main bosses,
And Hive Mother was difficult.
okay. I
Hive
feel like
Mother
it
was
was the
boring.
opposite for me.
Okay, before we jump into bosses, I mean we are already in bosses, but let's go into the other things of the
Yep.
game before going into that. So we've talked about enemies. I think we've gone so far into enemies that we just stumbled into bosses. Let's talk about the other element of it, the mining and crafting part of it, the gear progression part of it. And Anuk, you can even go into electronics in a bit,
And-
which I think you played with more than me, definitely. And I don't know.
It's more like
Deshan, did you play with
automation, I would say, rather than electronics.
Automation.
It's more like automation, like Redstone for.
No,
Redstone.
there's no automation in not really automation. It's an actual mix of electronics and automation, not full on automation only. But we'll get into it later. It's okay. Continue. Sorry.
Yes. But yeah, so mining and scavenging. I might be in the minority. I don't know if I'm in the minority on this, but I feel like the things you have to make in order to progress cost too much. I I like in order to get from a copper pickaxe to an iron pickaxe, let's say, I feel actually not really copper and iron. I feel like that's fine, but iron to all of the other ores, like all like getting the gear for the next level of ores, costs so much and costs so many different things that it feels very grindy for me
That
to even go through that.
That's I think a fair point.
no, that's I think Akshan intentional design because so I think I can't remember who I told this to, but like in Terraria as well, like they have a designated thing where it's like I think they call it hard mode. Like there's like a particular point in the game after you defeat a certain boss where the game turns into what you call hard mode, and it's very similar in Core Keeper in that this everything up until that very first hardcore boss, everything is fairly fast. It's fairly easy. So
So
basically,
is this like up until you finish defeating the first 3 bosses, then
yeah,
it goes into hard mode? Or?
yeah, that's the kind of style that Core Keeper has with this. In that it's a lot easier because again the area is a lot smaller. You know where the bosses are. It's a lot easier to find. The requirement to actually craft the scanners to find the bosses and all are like everything's. I feel like this first half is kind of getting you used to how the game works, and then everything after that is the real game.
I see.
It's not. I think it's a design choice, and that's just how certain games work.
I mean, it is definitely a design choice. But I also think that like the reason that I feel like it takes so long, of like a lot of grinding just to get to the next stage of gear, in order to get even to start mining the next stage of gear, is that this game is very much suited. Like, if you are going to get this game, I recommend you get it and play it with like play co-op with some other people because you'll get through things a lot faster. For one, I don't think bosses' healths are manipulated when you're playing with
No.
multiple people. Like it's
No,
not high
it's
or
not.
anything. So yeah,
At
so
the
you might
moment,
as
it's
well
not.
play with other people. There's very much a co-op game. Like it's suited to co-op. But yeah. For me, be it a design choice or be it just I don't know. It's definitely a design choice to make it that way. Uh, it's just it's the grind is so hard, like such hard grind that it's just not my kind of game, like my kind of uh,
Yeah,
progression
kind
of
of
game,
grind.
my kind of grind. Yeah, it's like finding freaking what's that thing in Minecraft in the netherite.
No, the right,
I'm
yeah.
not doing that. I'm not doing that. Like 2 hours, I find 5 netherite. Thank you, Kojima.
Kojima. I feel like that's
Uh,
intentional because that is, I think, where you are. The point you are talking about is where you are supposed to start automation, at least basic automation, and that's where you're supposed to get a majority of your resources quickly, as fast as, and also as fast as possible.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
where that
that's
increase in sun spike in need for a huge amount of resources.
yeah, this isn't really a criticism of the game. This is more just
Yeah.
an
Yeah, I
explanation
think
of
It's
why
a
it's not
personal.
my
It's a
kind of
Yeah.
personal. It's a personal
Yeah.
preference.
Yeah. I would have preferred if we sped through and I was able to get to the bosses faster, but it's whatever.
I think
It's
that's
kinda
this
good.
is probably the first game, Akshan, that you've played that has this sort of style to it. Like I'm used to it with Terraria.
Yeah. The closest thing I have is Minecraft or Pal
No, the
World.
thing is, Minecraft is very linear in its
It's very chilled in terms of
it's very like
It's very chill.
it's like a very straight line in terms of like its progression as well. Like with Core Keeper Terraria, there's like a at some point it kind of like steeps and like it's like
It
a
becomes deeper.
yeah, basically
Okay.
it gets a lot. It gets it's like this half of the game is to show you how the essence of the game, and then this next half is what the game truly is.
Mhm. Yeah. It. Yeah. Yeah. Uh. Yeah. That's a me thing. Delanta, we haven't heard from you in a bit. You want to say anything?
Crafting is fun. To be honest, like for me, it was relatively straightforward. I mean, again, from I was still going through the main, like the beginning area, so there was not much for me to do in that regard. So it was pretty straightforward. Not much to say.
But
I
I kind of agree, Akshan, in that like some things, uh, especially when upgrading workbenches, the requirement to get more ore is
Huge.
my problem with that is that it makes you it requires a huge amount to make a workbench, but then lesser to make the actual weapons and stuff you need. I
Mm.
Which
feel
is
like
very good, right? I think. I don't know. Just
I don't know, like it's kind of an odd way to go about it. Like
but
I
then
would think that it should make it easier for you to get to the next stage rather than making it harder. You know what I mean?
true, I agree. But if you look from a dev's point or the developer's point of view, maybe they want to make it so that you uh, get the equipment in that stage before you, without just quickly jumping straight to the last stage. Like, finish the game very fast.
But then the rest of the game already does that, right? The rest of the game already kind of um makes it so that you can't really do that. I don't know.
I guess I don't know.
It's an interesting design choice. Maybe it's something that might be looked at again come full release.
Maybe you never know.
maybe.
That decisions might change.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that makes the grind a lot more for me is the backtracking. Just like going to an O place or going into deep into the place and then walking all the way back or building a minecart to make the backtracking faster. It's like if there was a way to craft a teleporter or a thing to make checkpoints or teleport points that sooner in the game, I wouldn't have been as frustrated with it. But as is, it's just a lot of backtracking and a lot of inventory management
It is.
because of that.
I think
Uh,
I think we'll get into that when we talk about the world, but like on a small note, like I would say the world is a bit too big, but we'll get into that when we talk about the world.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
other thing
we
is
can
about
talk
the mining and stuff. Maybe just small touch base about is the fact that you can not upgrade, but just repair your equipment with scraps without having to remake a new one. Like the other games, like Minecraft, for example, you don't have to remake a diamond pickaxe again once it's broken.
yeah. It's a lot easier to repair your stuff in this.
Yes.
Yeah, and when it breaks, you still have it.
Yep. All the achievements,
You
all
don't.
the
Yeah, you don't have to make an entirely new one. Yeah, that's nice.
Mm, It is.
Um.
But like I'm wondering okay, yeah, no. So I think
Okay.
Akshan
There's
didn't get to this though, right? Like there are in-game weapons that don't have durability.
Mhm.
okay.
And
I
so
don't know
yeah,
about that.
that kind of makes it even better when you
Okay.
reach endgame.
I see. I see. Uh, one one thing that I just went back and played Power World again just because I wanted to see what I liked about that. And one thing that I wish every crafting game, it's like in this style, does is have the concept of a base zone where every item in the base you can use to craft instead of having to go to the chest and pick it out. Do you remember that, Anuk, in
Yes, I
Power
do.
World?
That was so easy to move around
That
stuff.
was so much better.
But
So much better.
apparently if I realized after keeping a chest close to the crafting station, it works the same way, but you have to keep it right next to it.
Oh, there is. Why
There
didn't they
is,
say that?
Yes. But you
but
have to keep it right next to it, yeah.
yeah, it's not like how in Power World you can be within the base idea.
Yeah, but why didn't they say that? Why didn't any? Okay, I guess it. I guess you just learned it just randomly.
Yeah.
Find out yourself, Akshan. You have to find out yourself.
I should mention this is a game that if you are very open to looking at the wiki and like really like going into the numbers and how things work. This is the game for you.
Oh yeah, so I guess we'll mention that, right? Because I think me and Akshan discussed this. But like Akshan played this game like fully blind, not knowing
Blind.
how to do certain things. Whereas like when I looked at the game, I spent the first 10 minutes and I realized, okay, it's one of those games where they don't tell you anything and you learn by experience. Considering the fact that we did this podcast with the intention of keeping our gameplay under 20 hours, even though that did not happen with this game.
Oh,
I intentionally went and looked at the wiki for everything in this game. So even when it came to fighting bosses and stuff like that, I already knew what I needed to do, what kind of armor I needed, and how they kind of a rough idea of how they work. So I played this game not being in the dark, which
yeah.
I wouldn't say is a bad thing, but if you want to take
It's not.
the thing of exploring, go ahead. But my recommendation is just look at the wiki if you get stuck.
Yeah, it's very much like a Minecraft. The Minecraft doesn't tell you
Yeah.
what you
It
can.
doesn't
get,
tell you
how
explicitly
to-
what to do, right? So you have
No,
to.
you just figure it out yourself. Who in their right mind on their own is going to figure out to make an ender pearl and put it with a thing with blaze powder without
No one.
looking it up? Nobody's going to do that. So yeah, I agree. It is very much a wiki type game. If you're not into that kind of game, you're probably in my ballpark. But I would recommend you just look up the wiki because it's not worth it. It's not worth playing it blind and not knowing anything.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on the experience you
Did
want.
you look
right?
at the wiki, Dilantu, and play?
I did. I started blind, but then I ended up having to look up
Yeah.
something,
What about you,
especially for the
Anand?
bosses.
Bosses, no. What do you call items? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bosses I
Dilantu.
learned
Uh,
on by myself
okay.
how to.
Dilantu, at what point did you decide to use the wiki?
Probably like 6 or 7 hours in. I think it was just because like I couldn't figure out like bosses and stuff, and I was just like going, and then I started reading. Okay, this is what you need to do, and then
Because I realized that the moment I got into the game, I think I told Akshan, right? Like, when you get into the game, it doesn't tell you anything. I spent nearly 10 minutes walking around figuring out where the frick am I supposed to go until I decided, let me hit this wall. And then I was like, oh, it's breakable. It's that type of game.
I think if I wasn't playing this for the podcast, I wouldn't have looked it up at all. If I was just playing it for myself, I probably would have just played it regularly. I
Mhm.
felt like I was kind of pushed into it because I wasn't making. I mean,
You weren't
I
making
don't think I
progress.
really brought this point up, but I'm just going to bring it up here as well. Like, I don't think I made regular progression like you guys did. I think your progress quite a lot more compared to me, so that's why I don't really have a lot to say outside of the main areas that I went through. I guess at the end of it, it just depends on the type of experience you want, right? So for me, like the wiki was only because I felt like I needed to make better progression than I was doing right now. But if I was just playing it, maybe I wouldn't have done so. I would have just explored.
Yeah, I think a lot of us. I think when this game was chosen, all of us kind of underestimated the time effort that will go into this game. Which, to be fair, is
They did change when we first looked it up. They did have it at a lower
yeah.
number of hours, and then they changed it suddenly. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, with an early access game, that's bound to happen.
There's bound to be changes, yeah.
Mhm.
It's not going to be.
Yes. Releasing August this something.
27th.
August
27th.
27th.
Yeah.
Akshan?
But okay, all right. So we're still recording, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we all have different experience levels with the game. I believe I have 20 hours. Delanta, you have 17. You said.
17 hours, yeah.
Yeah, and Anuk, Sashan, how many hours do you have not combined each?
84. 85, sorry.
165 hours now.
Damn, boy.
So you
Damn.
can tell there's heavy. There's a heavy amount of difference here. Uh, yeah. So, uh, I did not on my own attack the other two bosses. Like even Azios, I took Sashan's equipment. Really, you don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the bosses beyond the first three. So I think well, going actually no wait. I wanted to talk about the electronic and automation stuff that Anuk wanted to bring up. Anuk, you experimented with that stuff the most and you played with it the most. What can you
Yes.
say about it? Because it looks like the very in depth. There were so many things that I could pick from with the electronics table that I was like, Anuk must be loving this.
Okay. So to simplify it, it's essentially similar in its concept to Minecraft's logic in terms of like redstone and stuff, but it has a larger potential for electronics compared to Minecraft because it's very straightforward and it's easier to understand for people who are wanting to get into electronic stuff in comparison to Minecraft where it's a bit more difficult to get into. Anyways, regardless, so because the game surrounds is around automation for ores and boulders, right? Because you need these drills, as you call it, to mine these boulders, which you cannot use a normal pickaxe to mine them. Because of that, there are certain aspects of the game that you need to use what you could consider automation to mine it. So a drill is one part of it. A what do you call it? Was it called a grappler? I forgot what it's called.
Robot arm or something.
The robot arm, yes, the robot arm to put it onto a conveyor belt from the side to carry it from the conveyor belt into a furnace that can smelt your iron or whatever the ore that you're trying to mine from into a usable ingot for your crafting benches and stuff like that. But to further expand upon that automation part, you can either bring it back to your base as what I did, or you can use that said automation part to transport it in or to separate them into different boxes. For example, I've seen online. I haven't done it myself, but I've seen online where people can separate these ingots or even different items into different boxes without having to go to each box and put those items in. So
So
that's like a very complicated system to like just put in to one box and it just sorts everything out into different boxes by itself.
oh, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
this is you can make it so that the system knows like okay, this box is for like uh what do you call like eggs. This
Iron.
box
Iron, yeah.
is yeah.
Iron.
You can do it. You can do it. You can do it without a lot of resources to do that said system. It's quite simple if you look at it, but it's quite hard to get those items if you get what I mean.
This is the Minecraft equivalent to the people that built a working computer.
Yeah.
There's just that subgroup of Minecraft people that just dabble in redstone and all this other stuff.
You've
Yeah.
seen they made a freaking what do you call it?
They made
You can play
Minecraft in Minecraft.
in Minecraft.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
computer is able to play Minecraft in Minecraft.
Yeah.
And
So
just to why I said automation is different to electronics is because automation is basically trying to get in this game at least boulders into ingots for you to be it makes it easier process, right? Like bring it back to your base and stuff. That's part of automation, right? But whereas electronics is basically just turning on a light at for the moment. It's just because it's early access. It's just turn on a light. There's nothing else.
Mhm.
That's the difference, right? That's the only distinguish difference between electronics and automation as of now until the 1.0 update, which they haven't released, which we don't know much about.
But I guess like there's very not little, but Pokepaper will probably be very limited in its electronic and automation capabilities. because unlike Minecraft is actually able to work in a third dimension.
I feel like this has more potential than Minecraft. Why I say that? Because it's a surrounding automation, right? Whereas Minecraft, you don't need automation to do those things. Like
That's
you
for
can,
that's for the game, right? I'm talking about like in terms of like crazy shit you can build. Like the true extent to what you can do with Keeper's automation, I don't think will reach the
automation wise,
level of things that people have done with Redstone in Minecraft.
no, you can do similar because you have the same, at least a little bit better or a bit more compact, I guess, in comparison to Minecraft because it's such a small space.
It's only time will tell.
Time will tell. All right. Let us jump into uh, the bosses. We were talking about bosses already. However, bosses. One thing I will say about the bosses is that one of my criticisms with Azios especially is that I could not tell where his attacks were landing. It's with his beams of light. I could not tell where I'm supposed to stand to avoid them because it's not clear what he's hitting, and that was going to be my criticism really of that boss. But looking at the trailer, I don't think it's an intentional decision they made. They did that for the boss. I think they are still working on it because in the trailer, I was looking. They showed that boss, and his attack looked different and clearer. So,
Yeah.
so keep in mind anything we say, grain of salt. They might have fixed it. They might even know it's a problem, and they're fixing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, bosses. I remember me and Session were playing. You were just in my world. Oh, I was in your. No, you were in my world. We were just walking around, and we came across a large cavern. We were just like, "What is this?" And then suddenly,
No, you in my
thing.
world.
I was in your world. Then
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
a thing just sort of came and just stomped you and crushed you, and I was screaming, "There's a giant crab here!" And that's where we saw Gom. I really like Gom. That was my favorite part of this game. Just
Gorm was the only
existing.
boss that I beat.
Hey, there we are.
Did you not find Glurch?
No, I was really annoyed about that. I was like, what?
He was usually near the
He's very
spot where you
close to
I
can
the-
find-
know. I walked everywhere I could. I could not find this out.
Yeah.
It was easier to find Gorm than it was to find her.
Find the killer.
I don't understand. I feel like again there was probably one section because I kept on digging in different sections. I feel like if I went down a path, we kept on exploring one path, maybe I would have ran it.
So there's actually a tool I use towards the end of my Goalkeeper playthrough. It's
Mhm.
called CK Map Tool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it lets you upload your map and it updates as you play the game as well. And
Okay.
it basically the way Goalkeeper works is that it bases the geography of certain things like bosses in certain locations off like a radius, a distance from the core basically. And so this tool kind of helps you, it draws the circle as to where those things will be. So it'll be anywhere within that circle.
Mm.
And so it kind of gives you a rough idea. And also the other things that narrow it down are stuff like the biome. Because according to the way the map is generated, like the clay and the stone biome is like one circle and then that rotates from world to world, and then like the outer three biomes also rotate in a different direction. So like it can change as to where it is on your map, but it will generally be in that radius. So if you upload your map onto that tool, you'll probably see where it could have been, and you probably just missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, Glurge.
I don't think I'd be doing that, but
Yeah.
Hey, good to know. Good for the people to know.
I think I just stumbled upon the Glurge just randomly.
With the tool though,
Uh,
some things you can't find. Like for example, forgot
Jonathan.
which monument you couldn't find, even though it is within a certain radius.
That's
You need to
because some of the buildings aren't based on radius.
no, but one of them was based on radius, and the at least the god armor one.
Mhm.
It's within a certain radius, within 1,000 meters from the circle, or at least 1,000 blocks from the circle. It's not in the tool itself. You have to like simply key in the information.
Maybe it's being
Something
updated still. I mean,
maybe.
everything's
Yeah.
early access. What do you want to talk about the bosses anyway, Akshan?
No, I just want to mention Gom. I like Gom.
You want to mention nothing else?
What do you call? I from the bosses that I played, I like Gom. I didn't. I the first boss is fine. It's simple. It's a simple enough boss. It's just a giant slime. I did not like who's this fellow, the Hive Mother,
Hmm.
because you just stand there and hit it while you have laid down some traps to get the spawnables. But that's also because I don't like spawning bosses.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the bosses? Because you all actually played the bosses more.
I think the slime ones are a bit too repetitive.
They all have the same movement style.
They all have the same movement style with just a slightly different mechanic.
Yeah.
What's the
But
difference?
they all have the same easy way to cheese the
Yeah.
game. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I think they differ in like very subtle ways in that Glurch and King Slime spawn other slimes. I think Ivy also spawns other slimes. She doesn't really do anything else.
Ivy just puts down the slime only. There's no.
I mean, all of them put down slime.
Uh,
Yeah, all
yeah,
of them put down
yeah.
slime. Morpha and Igneous, which are the last two, are the only two different ones. Morpha throws out bubbles, and Igneous fireballs,
And also can heal.
and can heal. Yeah, but like yeah, the slime bosses are a bit repetitive. Eh, yeah.
All right.
I feel like Atlantean
Well-
Worm is the most different out of all the types of bosses, and the most what's the word? Not complicated, most
Unique.
unique boss in terms of that you have like you have to separate mechanics and stuff. I don't know how to explain that. Yeah.
Yeah. My only thing with the bosses is that like I don't know, Akshan, I know you fought with us and that made it a bit easier, but did you not feel that Ra Aka, which is the last Titan, is a lot easier than Omaroth,
What is Raka?
the scarab
Not
thing
in the
in the
water.
desert?
In the desert. Okay.
Did you not
Was
feel
he
like that
easier?
guy was easier than the tentacle dude, Omaroth?
He was because he spawned less things to hit you, and his movements you could dodge pretty easily. compared
Yeah,
to the
which
other
like
guy.
kind of felt really weird.
Yeah. In general, a boss, if it spawns or sends out attacks that are slow, and but there are a lot of them, those are just harder than a boss that comes at you with its big body.
Mm.
Also, I think it's because you're on a boat compared to being on land where you can move faster. That's why.
No.
I don't know. That boat made a sound. Felt pretty fast.
The
Yeah.
what sound?
So
The sound.
No,
Yes.
I think a boat makes. But yes, yeah, I did feel like that crab boss. Was he a crab? What was he?
It was a
Uh,
tentacle something, I don't know, like a kraken.
Tentacle.
I think a kraken
Sand
is
kraken.
probably like closest thing.
All right. Yeah, I did feel like the sand guy was a bit easier compared to the other guy. Was he supposed to be the harder one?
I mean, he is the last Titan.
I see. So he just had more health, basically. That
I think so.
probably.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's there. From what I played, just joining y'all and fighting the second time. They were fine.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, I think. Do we have any other thoughts about the gameplay before we jump into the world and the mixture of? Well, we'll start with the generation, the world generation, and the map that is created. If we
I
cut that for a little bit.
I do wanna mention two things that we didn't cover here. One is
All right.
gardening / the breeding part, not breeding, but like
Oh, yeah.
livestock.
Okay. Yeah.
Its sole purpose in the game, I feel like, it's just so that your character loses quite a bit of energy, especially in the start and the second half of the game. So like you need like a sustainable food source, which is where I see gardening coming in. I don't see that much of a need for the livestock other than you needing certain items, and maybe if you really want to breed them and then kill them for their food, for their meat. But I don't know, like for me the two
So you can name them, Sashank.
can
So
name
that's,
them.
that's pretty fun.
Can name them.
But like I feel like the livestock breeding and other part of this game that's the most fun, fishing, are absolutely useless and add nothing to this game.
Livestock.
I didn't even know there was fishing.
Yeah, that's how bad it is.
I agree.
It has an
Fishing, I have
even.
level 0.
If people think Stardew Valley's fishing is bad, this is worse.
Play this.
They really need to revamp fishing and the use of livestock, because like at the moment it's minimal that it doesn't really, I don't know.
Although you need freaking wool. You need wool to make the freaking scarlet armor,
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like
which was very annoying.
that plus those bug type fellows, you need like their scales to make some other type of thing. I think it was Solarite or Galaxite. But like other than that, there's no other use for them. I don't know. Arnold, do you have the same feeling?
Yes. I mean, milk was good for armor for a short period of time. After that, you found your own better food sources for armor or even potions.
Mm.
Meat. I mean, meat is not really a necessity because
Bloated
can get-
OP.
bloated is OP, and also if you really want meat, lava meat is also a better option. Faster food.
Yeah, so maybe the devs need to kind of figure out something.
I think they will add that bit later because it technically that is a new update if you really think about it, because it just came out quite recent for the pets and stuff.
Even fishing.
Fishing, I think, been there for a while. I think the pets is the one that is quite new.
I mean, pets are fine. Like pets actually have some use. I'm saying that the livestock.
No, I'm saying livestock. So not pets. Sorry, livestock.
Yeah.
Livestock was new.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that at least has some value and something. Fishing, nah, bro. Like, I'd rather just leave my garden for 10 minutes. It grows. I can get more food from leaving my garden grow in 10 minutes than I can fishing for 10 minutes.
I think they might rechange it or something. We don't know.
All right. So, yeah, that's fishing and gardening for you. Let's talk about the world and the generation of the world. Generation and also the lore, the lore of Core Keeper.
Mm.
I didn't really get much of the lore, but first off, generation. This is a procedurally generated world where the generation is still sort of controlled. Like Sashan said, the bosses are spawned at certain radiuses away from the core, so that it's not completely random where the bosses are. However, besides that, there's a great deal of random generation. There are randomly you come across a mine shaft or a race car track, which is very random.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. And stuff like that. I imagine they're going to add more. There's going to be a lot more in 1.0 release of like random things you can find. But yeah, any thoughts on the random generation? Any feelings? Because I have feelings.
I'll let someone else go first.
Random generation.
Random generation. Okay, personally, yeah, go.
No, you first.
Personally, this kind of game, after having played Palworld again, it just made me realize just like the why randomly generated environments aren't something that I like as much as I like uh, crafted environments, like environments that are hand placed and laid out. Because that's like that kind of open world is the kind I like, just because I know that if I come across something, I know it was placed there, and that if I go further, there's like reasons for why it was placed there. There's progression to the whole thing. Whereas Core Keeper, it's like I'm mining through what feels like an expanse of random, and then I hit some point of interest. I'm at the point of interest, and then if I go further, I just go back to random again. Instead of me feeling like, oh, from this point of interest, there's something more. There's going to be something related to this point of interest that continues on. Like there's a civilization here. Whereas instead, it feels more like I'm not as willing to get invested in the world just because I know it's random.
Mm, yeah.
And that's just me
That's
because
a
I like open
fair
worlds.
point. Yeah, the
I like
initial
open.
areas, especially, I feel like it doesn't really feel like you're getting any. Like it starts feeling like the same sometimes. I also remember, like as I was going through, there's a lot of like. Maybe you guys also noticed this as well, and it's not a big deal. But for me, it was just like there's a lot of like holes in the walls or in the ground and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it happens a lot. It's not even just like okay, a couple. And
You
then
can
move
fill
on.
in those, right?
You can, but which is fine. I mean, I end up filling them in because I'm a hole filler
Uh-huh.
in the game, and
All right.
but it's still it happens a lot. I think it happens a bit too much for my liking.
My gripe is that like they've done this for the bosses. They've done it in a way that you can find where they are with a middle level amount of grinding with the scanners and stuff like that. I just wish that they did it for either one of two things. Either they did it for everything that is of importance to this game and is like, some level of like something important to achieve that helps you like level up your character. Like, everything should have a way to sort of figure where it is. Or like similar to how I mentioned that certain points of interest are a certain distance from the core and within a radius. They should be easily identifiable on the map. There are a couple of things that were added that aren't like that, which makes the game all the more frustrating because, for example, at the moment, there are 3 end game like items. There's a sword, there's a bow, and there's a pickaxe. I did the bow and the pickaxe.
4, right? Sir? Not 3, 4 items.
What's the fourth one? The Oracle,
Oracle
deck.
deck.
Okay, fine. Oracle deck, yeah. I did the pickaxe and the bow by looking at this map tool and figuring out through the radius where each thing is. And it took a lot of searching, but at least searching with a guide in order to find what I need to make it. I could not get the sword and the Oracle deck because they are based on randomness and random generation that require you to explore what is already too massive of a map. It is, and this is why I brought it up earlier, that this map is ridiculously massive. And for only one, and I think either between 1 and 3 of these points of interest to exist in this entire map, it's just
Mm-hmm.
too much, right? Like you're sinking in so much time exploring that like it's not worth it.
Yeah, and it's without teleportation points or stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much backtracking. All right. Anuk, how do you feel about it? Well, you've explored it the most. You showed us your map, and holy hell.
I mean, for me, I don't know. I feel like it's the opposite. I feel like there's a bit of enjoyment to because those are like legendary items, right? Those are like infinite durability and whatnot. And to get such items, that I feel like the grind to get such items are a part and parcel of that. So it's not an issue for me, at
It was
least.
worth it for you. It was worth
It
it
was-
for you going through all that to get to that point.
I feel like it was worth it. Like you get an item that is infinitely durable. Like you don't even need to think about fixing it as
Yes,
such.
but why give that treatment to some items and not others?
Because it's a legendary item, right?
But they're all legendary items.
No, this is infinite.
Yes, the pickaxe and the bow are the same.
Yeah, because no, in terms of lore wise, it's different. Is what I mean. I was going to say. At
You're
least.
saying the rune.
Lore,
You're saying the rune song and the oracle deck kept low.
yes.
Okay.
They have lore. All right. Well, we can jump into the lore and what we understand about it, and which I will say nothing because I know nothing.
Yeah. My understanding is random thing. It teleports you to what I'm gonna assume is. I don't understand this world because if you think about it in its third dimension, you're on a middle plane and there's one block up and one block down. In essence, there's 3 blocks.
Yeah.
It's either there's 3 blocks or a ground or one height level block and vast emptiness. And I don't understand how that works.
You were basically underground, right? So where you were before previously to the teleportation is your normal world, right?
Mm.
And as soon as you touch the core, you are teleported underground.
No. I understand all that. That
Y-
part
no,
is
I'm-
clear. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but the what I'm trying to say is the top bit is where you punch up. The roof is where you were before, and when you punch down or you dig down is essentially the middle of the earth or whatever
So
you call it.
so everything else in between is empty.
Everything else in between is like a cave system. Does it make sense?
No, it doesn't. Because you can there's a literal tool that requires one punch to bring in light from the surface.
Yeah,
Which
that is up.
yeah,
that is
which shows you that there's just one block blocking your way.
I mean, you can't have such a realistic point. It's just the game. It's not like you have to be realistic about everything.
I know, but like when you think about Core Keeper in its third dimension, it makes no sense.
Okay, just to point out, then if that's the case, then you should not be able to break the ground in one block. Also,
Huh?
you
No,
say you can only punch
I
up
don't
in one
think
block.
Yeah, I have
No,
that same
that's
issue
not what
downwards as well.
Okay,
I
sure.
didn't know you could punch up. What
Oh
a
yeah,
weird
there's it's a scarlet puncher that allows you to bring in light to, like, in the meadow you can see there's a lot of light, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
but I for a long time thought you were really deep underground, but now Sashan's telling me you punch one layer of dirt above you and you get light.
Yes.
Why don't you just leave?
The tool has a description that says it'll help you bring light in, but it won't help you escape.
Okay.
I mean, yep.
All right then.
That's the description of the tool. And like when I read that, I was like, okay. And then I started like this entire time you're thinking on 2 dimensions. The moment I was like thinking in 3 dimensions, I was like, this game
Wait.
this game is
Yeah.
very weird.
Who knows? Maybe when you mine up, you're actually mining, and you look up, but your character can see, but you can't. You see what looks like a glowing sort of fruit that's glowing light off of it. It's still underground, but it's a glowing fruit that's being underground, and so your character's too scared of it to go up, and so he doesn't go up.
I don't know, man. Like
That's my law.
The other thing is like
That's my law.
I don't understand how water physics work either.
I mean, it's
Uh,
like Minecraft. But how does the sand fly in the middle of the sky?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
not sky,
I
down.
understand that. That is that is just
That's
puzzling.
the part of the. That's just the part of the game.
it's
It's
a
not to
it's a
discredit the
law.
game or anything. It's just like one of those things when you. I think
Think about it.
I think
hard enough.
about the downward thing is less as a pain to think about than the upward thing. Because I told you, right? It's either that you are in a space that's 3 blocks tall, or you're in a space that's 2 blocks tall and everything else is empty space. Or this tool is really powerful enough to punch a hole through everything.
Is there
Mostly.
ladders in this game?
No.
No ladders.
Aha, see? That's why you can't climb out. No ladder.
Uh-huh.
No ladders invented. It's like
No
inventing
ladders
the
invented.
wheel. But all right. Well, that's our thoughts on the world. The future of this game.
Didn't Anuk have like some law that he
Oh, yeah,
spoke about?
Oh yeah,
So-
you were just talking about the light.
Yeah. So in terms of the law, is basically how there's the Forgotten Ruins and then those alien crystals that you see. Okay, I'm maybe spoiling it for Dilanta if you haven't gone to that
He's
part.
not gonna
Don't
play
worry
this
about it.
game
Anu,
again.
Just
Yeah.
go for it.
So basically, in these, from what I understood, at least from the wiki and stuff, is where there are creatures which have been trapped in the, or not trapped, creatures who have made this world underground, or who have made the core, or as they're called, the makers, are trapped in these. You remember those caskettes you saw, Seshan?
Mhm.
Those
Yeah.
are basically the makers, and these creatures that you see around in these crystals are like the guardians, so to say.
Mhm.
So you are essentially in a underground civilization that is now extinct, and you come back, or the core has brought you into this world to revive said civilization. So
Okay.
those items that you are finding in these certain locations are broken up pieces of that ancient civilization. So for example, the rune song is
Mhm.
part of the Azios civilization, or biome at least. So that's why you can find most of those parts only in the Azios biome. Or for example, even the what's the other one?
The Phantom
Phantom Spark.
Spark is in the sunken sea. The armor is in the
It's also in the sunken sea.
in the desert of
Ah, sorry,
the armor is in the
yeah.
desert of beginnings.
Yeah.
Even the Soul Seeker is kind of like
Soul
kind
Seeker
of
is
around.
a universal, I guess, because you need to find the ancient forge to make the Soul Seeker.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, from what I understand, at least from the basics, it's basically you're trying to revive the civilization, or at least trying to help the core to revive the civilization.
Understood. Ko is evil. Kill Ko.
Core is helpful. What do you mean?
I'm telling you,
Down,
man.
you heard Anuk, down with the core.
Down with the Ko.
Core is evil, kill core.
I'm fairly certain that, and I told this to Akshan as well. I feel like, and I think it gets into our next section as well. The fact that and spoiler, I guess, at the current stage of the game, once you finish beating all the titans, the core just says that there's more that's to come, meaning that the game's end is not finished. But I
It's really weird when in game the core just says, "Wait for the next update."
Yeah. But I think what that means is that either the core is gonna be the final boss, because if you think about it, like in a Minecraft sense, or even like Terraria and how those games work, like it ends up still being a game where you have to, where you still work and like you still play in the base that you set up, in the world that you've set up, right? So thinking about the story, the core is not gonna send you back.
We'll
You're
never know.
stuck there forever.
Yeah, basically it'll just be like, aha, I tricked you. Now look at all my combined, like it'll be like, give me the souls of the 3 titans, and then it just like turns into some monstrosity that's a combination of all 3, and then fight it in some different area, and then once you fight it, it dies, and it's like, I'll never send you home.
Possible.
It's either that or they do like a whole not a Minecraft thing, but like you fight it, you go home, you scroll through some credits, and it's like, oh, you're back, you're back here, and like it's a boss that you can keep fighting over and over again. It's one of those two options.
Or even better, Sashan, even better. The world gets even bigger, and there's like 7 more bosses
Oh
for you
my
to fight.
lord, if it does that, I don't care about achievements. I'm uninstalling.
Had to wait till August 27th.
Seven.
They're already adding one boss.
They're adding a
So-
boss, yes, but as long as they don't
Already
add
add one boss?
anything more, like I said, Forgotten Ruins, clay biomes, dirt biome, decent size,
But they're adding another
understandable.
biome as well.
That's. I hope it's a sub biome and not a new
No,
area.
it's a new biome. It's a new area.
All right, I'm deleting this game.
From what I saw, the trailer, it's like a spooky-ish biome.
No, that's a sub biome. It's like the mole dungeons in Azios.
No. We'll see.
We'll see when it comes up, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they don't.
Thumbs up.
Because, like,
Hey.
to be honest, like everything is so freaking massive. Like it's like unnecessary. Like bloody hell.
It's like, all right, so we've come to the point where we're talking about the future of the game and its full release. Yeah, it's gonna get bigger. It's gonna get, I don't know if it's substantially bigger, but
I hope you are talking in terms of
Yeah.
updates and not in terms of map size.
Can it be both?
No.
Can it be both? Can it be both? Check it out when it's on full release and see what's changed about it from what we talked about. But before we come to a close, do we have any other thoughts before we go into the next thing
Mods.
about the game? Mods?
Did
You
anyone
wanna
really
talk about
try
mods?
any mods?
Did you all
I
use
did.
mods?
I did
okay.
use.
All right.
Does the
Go for it.
fishing script count?
No, not that. O Boulder, I tried. Most of the mods don't work because they are only used to work at least for older versions. So I tried all the mods that was there. O Boulder works. The fishing one doesn't work.
What's the
The-
O boulder?
Infinite O Boulder, so it basically regenerates O. So you don't need to. That's what I was telling you about. So you don't need to worry about your O breaking. You can just keep it on forever.
I see.
Then the other one was command line this thing, so you can like go feed yourself or something like that, like different commands you can add in. And then what was the other one? Oh yeah, there's another one where you can add in item that gives you juices or something like that. That it's a secondary or new item slot or something like that. There are like different mods that allow you to streamline your automation.
Hmm.
I see. Yeah. I tried to put a mod where it just gives me more XP for doing stuff, but it didn't work.
Yeah, that multiplication XP one didn't work even for me. I tried to see how it works.
I was very upset.
Why would I have loved that?
All right, so let's jump into the last section before the final section, which is for our achievement hunter. Now, our achievement hunter tries to go for all the achievements, but sometimes the game is just so big that they can't get all the achievements there in the month, especially. So, achievement hunter, Seshan, tell us, all the fellow achievement hunters out there, is this their kind of
Yeah, I'll give that verdict at the end. But rough thing is this game has 39 achievements currently in this early access stage. We'll probably have more by the time the full release comes in August. But you have a rough sense of how the game's achievements are based on what the current ones are. A majority of them, I would say, a fair majority of them are based on defeating bosses and optional bosses. None of them really have anything to do with doing. Very few of them have to do with specific actions and like special things. Like there was one for like talking to a lava guy with like a full lava armor. Then there's one where you sit on a cabling toilet with a crown. Like very random stuff, and like it's just a mix of progressional things and random things. which again aren't too difficult to get. Like a majority, I've gotten a majority of these. So full disclaimer, I've only gotten 34 out of the 39. I have 5 left to get. I'll be honest, 2 of them I kind of cheated with. Um,
Don't worry, I also cheated with
Cheated
them.
to get achievements.
yeah, because as I
I
mentioned
also
before,
accidentally cheated.
yeah, the 2 that I cheated to kind of get are the 2 that I'm annoyed about the most. They are the 2 that deal with randomness, and that is the most annoying ones to do because that
RNG.
requires a time requirement that I sadly cannot give. I am a man who works and has 3 hours of my life a day to give to a game.
3 kids take care of.
No, I don't have kids yet. Um,
Yet.
Yeah.
alright.
Stardew Valley one's okay.
Yes, Stardew Valley ones only. I have 3 hours of my life to give to games a day. That's on a good day. And I'm not gonna put any more into this game because of how ridiculously grindy it is. The most annoying ones for anyone looking to do the achievements are the ones based on skill points. So there are 9 skills in this game. There's crafting, mining, running, cooking, gardening, fishing, melee, range, and vitality. Vitality being like health and stuff like that. And they use a different aspect in each one that measures how much of XP you get. Some of them are fairly easy, and you'll get by playing the game more and more and more. I've played like about, I mentioned before, I played 85 hours and I've gotten a fair few of them. Some of them require an annoying amount of grinding because they aren't intrinsic parts of the game that you play regularly. Like I mentioned, fishing. You have no requirement whatsoever to fish, but the fishing skill still needs to be leveled up, and that's a stupid achievement. I probably spent. I put a script to autofish, and I've left it on for nearly 12 hours as it is, and it's still not level 100. And it's absolutely annoying that you need that amount of time to put into one skill. And that's something that you're doing, especially fishing, right? Like my gripe here is with fishing, in that you're doing it and it gives no other value. You're not doing anything else with it. At least with mining, with running, with vitality, like vitality, melee, range, all those other things, you're at least doing something else while you're doing it. Fishing is freaking sitting there and pressing 2 buttons. In essence, if you like to grind and commit the rest of your life to one of these games, and you have 150 to 200 hours of your life to spare, go for this. If you're on a time crunch, don't touch this game.
Also, if you really want the achievements, let's put that part in as well.
I mean, this is the achievement section, so yes. This is meant for the achievement hunters. Hey.
But yes. All right. So from there, we will transition to the end of this episode, which is where we give our ratings on the game. So we'll start with the person who picked the game, Anuk. Please tell us. Oh, by the way, if you are coming here from previous episode, we are changing our ratings, and it is now going to be just either try it or skip it. Plain is bread and butter. All right, Anuk, go.
So for me, I would say try it, for the fact that if you are trying to get into the game style of, like, playing Minecraft, Terraria, Stardew Valley, I think this is a little good of an introduction to that style of games, but not the best because it's still in early access. But I guess you could just give it a go, see where it takes you. But yeah, that's all for me for now. Anyone else?
All right. Next up, let's go with Delanta.
Right. So, for me, I think it sadly comes down to the fact that, like, given our time, I don't want to say time constraint, right? It's not time constraint, but essentially, given the way that we've set the format of the podcast and so on, I feel like this game requires a lot more than what I myself ended up putting into it. I mean, you can see it from Sashan and Anuk. This requires a lot of time, and Sashan's very passionate speech earlier. So you do need to give a lot into this game to get the most out of it. And for that reason, I'm probably going to go with a skip it for this one, because I feel like, again, the time commitment is quite a lot to get the most out of this game. I feel like if you do have the time, sure, it's well worth the adventure. But for me personally, I think the requirement is too much, so I'm gonna have to skip it for this one.
All right. I'll go next and then Seshan. I try my best to get into to not sort of lock myself into a kind of game. Like I try not to say that I only like this kind of game, and so I try different kinds of games. However, I feel like I'm hitting a roadblock with this kind of game, because games like Don't Starve, which are also kind of aimless survival sort of games, although this one has an aim, is not in my wheelhouse. It is the random generation, the lack of an open world that's handcrafted, and that there's a story to sink your teeth into, or a lore to sink your teeth into, like with like a Hollow Knight or something, or Horizon Zero Dawn. Means that even though those games have similar mechanics to this one honing in on those mechanics and being really like Minecrafty about it, like the world doesn't matter as much as the game matters. And sadly for me, if you're the kind of person like me, if you're not already into this kind of game, you're probably not gonna like start to get into it. You might go ahead and give it a try if you like what you heard so far. But for me personally, just for me, I would say skip it if you're the kind of person like me. Yeah, and I feel bad saying that just because there's a small developer, there's a small development team, there's an indie game. I would say there's no shame in just buying it and trying it out, like as Anuk said. But if you are like me, I would say skip it. That's my rating. Finally, then on session.
All right. After much deliberation, I will say, and even though my comments have maybe said otherwise, I'm giving it a try it. Because at the end of the day, it's a really nice game. It's fitting in that genre that it wants to fit in, and it's trying to probably cater to people like the Minecraft players, Terraria, Stardew people that have the ability to give a certain time commitment to this game. That being said, my gripes with this game still stand, because what those other games do that this doesn't is the fact that like it seems all the more endless and infuriating in that regard to me personally, having to play this game trying to get certain things done, which is like it kind of knocks it down a tier for me. But like in essence, I really like this game. I like what Corekeeper is doing, but I personally can't give so much time into this game. And like, which is why like it just annoys me. It requires too much time. It's all, and that's coming from someone who spent nearly 200 hours on Stardew Valley.
Same. I also I don't know if I have 200, but I do have an absurd amount.
Yeah, like
on Stardew.
Even though the time requirement that I gave into Stardew Valley was more than Corekeeper. So for reference, Stardew Valley is 200, Corekeeper's like 85 hours. Yeah. Even though there is a difference there, like the amount of valuable things to do in Stardew Valley is that much more. than it is in Core Keeper, and there's ways to do it that aren't infuriating.
Yeah, there's a lot more variety of things to do in Stardew as well. Like
Yeah.
you can freaking get married.
Yeah. Same goes for Terraria, right? Like at the moment there is, but those are games that have been there. Those are games that have gotten a lot of updates.
And they're also fully released.
And they're also fully released. So I have high hopes that the developers at Core Keeper will listen to their community if that's what they want. If that's what the community wants, at least. Like in my personal opinion, like the current way it is, like certain things are annoying, but the essence is there. So yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I should add something that this is a very good version of a game that I just don't happen to like. I should mention that. I'm not putting the game down for not being good. I think Sashad has more hours to comment on the criticism stuff as well as Anuk. But yeah, yeah, that's our feelings on the game. Do we have any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Lovely. Good. So,
I mean, I guess I do. Like, it's kind of unrelated, but somewhat related to Core Keeper. And like we saw this when we watched this year's Summer Game Fest, that a lot of the indie developers are doing a great job. They're getting a lot more games out there and releasing a whole different variety of games. And I think Core Keeper's no different in that. And it's for what it's worth, it's a good game. And I think I at least hope that it becomes a success for its developers.
Yeah. Big up to Pugstorm.
Yeah.
Pugstorm.
And
You made a good one.
Firestone is the publisher,
Producer.
right?
Publisher.
Fireshine.
Fireshine is the publisher.
Fireshine.
Pugstorm is the
Yes,
developer.
Pugstorm.
All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. Catch our previous episode, which was on Viewfinder, a puzzle game from England. I don't know. A puzzle game, a
Yeah.
portless puzzle game, which was our last episode. And the upcoming episode is on
Journey.
a game from over a decade ago. Best indie game from the 2012 Game of the Year Awards, which was not the Game Awards, it was Spike Game Awards. Yeah, we'll be checking that out. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night, day, evening, whatever. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.